We have a series, people. We are going to 5 games. I hope you guys are ready because it's going to be a very fun night tonight. We've got a lot to break down. It's been a very interesting series so far. Garrett Cole, what an all-star performance last night. He was the ace that we wanted, but we still got a lot of things to get through. I mean, 5 games. This has been a very, very tough series to date. Are we going to make it, people? Well, let's find out. We'll break it all down for you right now on the Pinstripe Chronicles. I am Donald. This is Tats. Rob will be joining us in a few minutes. He's got some technical issues. So, first of all, Tats, 5 games, man. We faced elimination. We got through it last night. Are we going to get through it again tonight?
I think the momentum's in our favor. Because you can't expect a series that's going 5 to be an easy series, and it has not been.
No.
What gives me a little extra reassurance is 10 of the 12 previous elimination games on the road. The Yankees are 10-12 in losing those games. So the fact we were able to get a win and bring the series back home, I think really does shift the momentum back to the Bronx and in the Bronx favor. The crowd is going to be a factor. They're going to be loud. They're going to, Naylor's not going to be able to hear himself think for a week, when the crowd gets to him after the theatrics from yesterday's game. So we also have Nesta. You got Nasty Nesta. And he's a hard enough.
We don't have Nasty Nestor, man. It's Tyon tonight.
Who's going tonight?
It's Tyon.
Ah, shit. Yeah, all right. Maybe I'm not as confident as I thought. I want to see Nesta. I really do. Well, let's see.
Well, yeah. I mean,
what the weather does first.
Nestor on 3 days rest, I would have gone. I think he easily could have gone 3 or 4 innings. But they're going to go all in on Tyon. Tyon's a good pitcher, man. He's done this pretty well this year, but would you want Cortez in this spot? For sure. Okay, so let's break down what we can to date. I want to start off with Aaron Boone because I have major issues with, well, first of all, the roster that he chose. Going all in on IKF has been a massive disaster to this point. And it looks like it's taken 3 games for Aaron Boone to go, oh, shoot. We maybe shouldn't go all in on him or we're going to be out. Bunch of decisions from Boone, which was very strange. All of them essentially in game 3. Looks like he's planning ahead for a series that isn't actually guaranteed at all. I mean, he already used the word choice regarding IKF. Well, I still think IKF could have a role for us over the next few weeks. No few weeks is guaranteed, man. This is elimination. Yeah, for heaven's sake, we'll be lucky to get through the next couple of hours. So, especially when it came to Holmes, Clay Holmes, he didn't use him to close out the game in Game 4 and Game 3. And then we get to Game 4. And now it's apparently an emergency. But it was an emergency in Game 3. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. You can't say, oh, well, we were keeping Clay Holmes for an emergency. Well, what would you define as an emergency? This is the playoffs. All hands on deck. And Severino already called out Aaron Boone. And that's a big indicator right there. When Severino was like, this is the playoffs. Like, there's nobody down in the playoffs. And it seems like Aaron Boone missed the memo on that. So it all really just circles back to the fact that Aaron Boone got the lineup wrong, leading off with Aaron Judge. That didn't help. He was getting the nastiest pitches you could possibly ask for, and it was just a no-win scenario because at the very best you're going to get with him is a solo home run. And you're asking for protection from your 8 and 9 guys, and that's not how it works. And that was a big mistake. And A-Rod called him out, and it looks like the media kind of making a big deal out of it seems to have rung true, and the Yankees changed course really quickly within 24 hours. And like once again, when the fan base and the media were blowing up about IKF, within 24 hours, suddenly Oswaldo Cabrera is now our new shortstop, which he should have been the shortstop from the start. He's a better shortstop than IKF, yet he was playing left field. And IKF is the worst shortstop on our roster, and he was playing shortstop. That is what is ridiculous about this NLDS roster. So I've got Rob joining us. Thanks so much, man. I'm glad the technical issues are sorted out. Man, what did you think of this Aaron Boone stuff so far? Has he been to blame, or is it Brian Cashman?
I think they're both at fault here because this is a collective thing they got. It's Cashman and Boone's puppy, the way they orchestrate the lineup and the defensive alignment. I said it from the start. We all said it. Peraza should have been on this roster. The fact that Aaron Hicks and Tim Locastro and Marvin Gonzalez and Matt Carpenter, 4 outfielders, are sitting on our bench, and we couldn't fit an extra infielder. I know Marvin Gonzalez can play everywhere, but having that extra infielder, especially one with speed and a guy that can put the ball in play like Peraza, especially with IKF struggles showing up immediately in game 1, it should have been a reason that we had an extra shortstop on the roster. And I know Cabrera can play short very well, but he's a better left fielder now. He's a better outfielder now. You need to keep him.
But he is a better shortstop than IKF, though.
Right, but you also need to keep him out there because if you roll Locastro or Hicks in left field and have Cabrera at shortstop, we have a situation like we had last night where Hicks isn't going to do anything besides draw a walk. So that's why I was very mad about Peraza being left off the roster. I didn't mind if he wasn't starting necessarily, but the fact that he was off the roster entirely and Aaron Hicks made no sense to me. But this goes way back to the offseason. And how many times are we going to repeat ourselves about it? But they traded for a third baseman that plays shortstop, and they gave one away in the very same trade while taking on Donaldson's $50 million. It was a terrible move. All that just to get rid of Gary Sanchez and make an upgrade at third base that never needed to be made because you have DJ LeMahieu over there. So everything just points back to the offseason. The lockout should have been every excuse for Cashman to say, we're going to run it back. We're going to upgrade catcher. We're going to go defensive oriented. We're going to use more contact, whatever. And we would have had the same record with Urshela at shortstop this year. I guarantee it. Would have had the exact same record. So
we had a better record, to be honest.
Might have had 100 wins, 101, but it goes back to the offseason and the fact that once again, now we're reshuffling the infield in the playoffs. Last year we had 2 weeks left in the regular season. Now we're doing this shuffling in the playoffs. This team has got to get out of its own way and stop trying to think they're smarter than everybody because every single person but the New York Yankees front office saw that IKF was not the answer at shortstop, especially come October. And
now
trying
to reinvent the wheel, and that's been a big issue with the Yankees. They're trying to reinvent the wheel, and they make reactionary moves, even though they sit on things that clearly aren't working for months. And this casts back to last year. Gleyber Torres clearly couldn't play shortstop, and it was clearly affecting his hitting. And they didn't make the move that was costing them a bunch of games right until about 3 weeks before the end of the season last year. Then they moved him off. And then it's the same with this year. IKF, they basically gaslit the fan base. IKF is the best shortstop in baseball. Our metrics, which metrics are you seeing that nobody else can see? You can read metrics. You just go on the freaking Baseball Savant page, and that tells you all the metrics. But apparently they have secret metrics no one else does that tells them that he's the best shortstop in baseball, right? And then they ignored everything right until the very, very end and right into the playoffs. Oh, completely ignoring all of us that clearly, if you got eyes and a brain, you can see that Peraza is a much better shortstop. No. Our metrics tell us that the IKF is the best shortstop. And then he's blown a bunch of games. He's given runs left, right, and center to Cleveland. And then like, oh, shoot, right, panic time. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Boone and Cashman or whoever is involved in this front office are making reactionary moves based on things that clearly aren't working, but they had months and months to plan this in advance. They could have, if they got off their own egotistical, high horse and agenda, and just went, you know what? I don't want to be wrong here, but we have to look at all avenues, and it's clear that Peraza or even Cabrera is a better shortstop than IKF. So, Tats, what are you thinking about all this?
No, I think Rob's right. And we've been saying it the whole season. The trade to get this roster where it is was a big mistake. Was it worth making that trade just to get rid of Gary Sanchez? That's going to be a big. That's been the question that's not been asked. Was it worth it? Especially when you lose a defensive gem like Urshela. You could have done something. You could have had you had enough options in the minor leagues to supplement for the open shortstop hole. We've seen what the shortstops were able to do. As far as Cabrera, Peraza, Volpe's not that far behind. He's kind of rising up fairly quick. So you would have only had to have your minor leaguers fill a gap per se for one season. But as far as what Boone's been doing this offseason, again, it's too little too late when it comes to IKF. Stop trying to prove yourself right. We would take it a lot better if they were like, look, we tried this experiment. It's not working. We're going to make sure that by the time the postseason comes around, we have everybody in a position that will get us to success. Not because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. That's where the Yankees went wrong.
That's right. And Hypebeast J, I'm not a fan of Correa, but they could have went after him instead of dishing $50 million. There's not a question about it. That's 100% fact. You could have found a team-friendly, player-friendly deal in which you bring in Correa, and that almost probably only needed to be the move that they needed to make. You could have been like, okay, Correa, you're going to be playing either third base or shortstop because he's very good at both positions. You can play our shortstop until Peraza is ready. Then we can move you over to third base, and Urshela can be our utility guy. And I don't think anyone would complain. But even if we went with this terrible trade, which Brian Cashman did, and he once again gaslit the fan base that this was a brilliant move, that this was him being creative. I'm sorry, inheriting $50 million on a 37-year-old is not creative. But even if we went with that trade, I don't think the fan base would hate IKF as much as they do if IKF was exactly what he was brought here to do, be a stopgap. That's all his role was. He was a stopgap, and we all went under the pretense that he was a stopgap. And if he was the stopgap until Peraza was ready, and then Peraza took his place, and then you use IKF as a utility guy to play between third and short whenever guys needed a rest here and there, then I don't think this would have been an issue.
No, there's no.
And that's what it all circles back to, this kind of gaslighting that we've been getting from the Yankee organization, that IKF is the best shortstop ever. And it's just not true. And that's why we're in this spot where he goes into the playoffs with no backup. We basically gave him the whole shortstop position to himself for the playoffs, and he's given Cleveland a ton of runs already. And it's unacceptable. It really is. And I know we're keep talking about IKF, but for me, it's him and Aaron Boone / Yankees, which is the reason why we're even in the game 5 here. We should be home and dry. We should be ready to play the Astros, in my opinion, because we are better than Cleveland. But Cleveland are no joke. Their bullpen is serious. They're fantastic, in fact. Their pitching is very, very good. And they've just got an offense of very, I would say, punch and Judy hitters apart from Ramirez, but they all have quality at bats. They never give at bats away, and they work the count, and then they always make contact. And it's really hurting us because they drum up large pitch counts for elite starters, and then we're asking our bullpen, which none of us trust, to get us out of games. So let's go through the series so far. I have to say, Garrett Cole. If the Yankees get through Game 5, Garrett Cole is the MVP of this series, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
That man has been phenomenal in 2 starts. He's the reason why we were even alive in this series. First of all, Rob, what's your thoughts on Garrett Cole?
He shut me up completely because I had I wouldn't say little confidence, but my confidence was kind of like middle of the pack, I guess, about him, because I knew he'd be better because he's healthy going into this postseason than he was last year with the hamstring. But I didn't think he was going to be like lights out. because he was really good in 2020, and people forget about that, and they use last year as the reason to hate him. I'll just say his regular season was not very good at all to me, not for an ace. However, what we said going into the playoffs, that can all be forgotten if he shows up, and he has shown up. This entire pitching staff, in my opinion, has. But Garrett Cole, with the season on the line, delivered. He got hit a little bit. Naylor hit the home run and did his stupid little cradle thing, but Garrett Cole showed up when we needed him to. We needed an ace-like performance, and Garrett Cole gave us that. So every criticism that we've had about Garrett Cole, whether we advance or not, needs to be put to rest because he has shown up when we needed it the most. It only matters in October. You have to get there first, but once you get there, you got to show up, and Garrett Cole has absolutely shown up.
He really has, man. He was terrific yesterday with so much pressure. And you know what was great? His curveball was biting. His curveball bit, and he rode that curveball because he knew that the Cleveland just couldn't deal with it, especially Ramirez. He was swinging all over the place. He was swinging like a freaking tabletop, going 360 degrees. That's how good Garrett Cole's curveball was. Tats, what did you think?
I think the breaking balls for the whole pitching staff yesterday had Cleveland off balance. You saw that even in the 2 innings with Holmes and Peralta. The breaking pitch down and in on the batters was really throwing off their timing. So when you have, but it all depends on their fastball. Their fastball was working. The fastball was effective. That when you have your fastball to complement your breaking ball, that's your recipe to success as a pitcher. So being that all 3 pitchers in yesterday's game had that, that's why we're able to get this to a Game 5 back in the Bronx.
Exactly. Let's get into a couple of comments here. Hypebeast J. Franconi, I managed to boon this series. That's a manager who knows what he's doing. Yeah, I think, for sure, Francona seems to be handling his team better than Aaron Boone is handling his team this so far in the playoffs. Like, he knows their strengths and he knows their weaknesses, and he's really utilizing their strengths, which is all about contact hitting in their bullpen. And I feel like Aaron Boone is floundering at the moment. He's being outmanaged, and the calls that he's being asked to make, he's gotten wrong almost 100% of the time. But Garrett Cole and our pitching staff kept him alive to force a Game 5. Elliot, I agree with that sentiment. I would give him the MVP if there was one for the ALDS. I like Rob, I think he's what he meant. I didn't know which Cole was going to show up. Yeah, I think that is true. But I had faith that Garrett Cole was going to do something special because, for the most part, apart from the Boston wild card game last year, he's been very good in the playoffs. So he showed up and showed out. Judge looked good too. He just missed a few last night. I think he comes up big today, hopefully. I think so too. I do think that the Yankees are going to get through Game 5. As Tat says, the stadium's going to be loud. And it helped Cleveland that it was a day game in Game 2 because the atmosphere is not the same in Yankee Stadium during the day as it is at night. At night, it's special, it's loud, it's intimidating. And this is a very young Cleveland team. And we need to make it very intimidating. We need to make a cauldron atmosphere for them. What are you guys, Tats? What's your key for Game 5?
I think they need to go. The offense needs to show up, put up a few more runs. I really think I think we're keeping it too close. Especially because like you said, they're those punch and Judy hitters on Cleveland that can chip away at you. You need to keep a wide gap in the score. So I think it's going to come down to having patient at bats, grinding out at bats. You can't have you can't be out on 3 pitches. I think that's what they really need to understand. That's got to be their approach.
We got a spam comment down there.
Yeah, we did. We'll take that as a good sign. Do you think we should have had Domingo over Tyon? I've been thinking of that last night.
I would actually.
Yes, I do actually, because I don't believe Tyon's got the stuff to be a reliever. I think he's a starter. I think all his pitches are good, but I don't think any are particularly elite. But Domingo does have an elite curveball that he can ride, and and I would have gone with him, especially because he's got more experience as a bullpen arm than Tyon. So yeah, I think that move in the 10th inning was a mistake. I wouldn't have done that. Rob, what would you have done in the 10th inning?
I think he's talking about tonight's game because we're starting Tyon.
Oh, I thought he was referring to when he put in Tyon in game 2, which cost us the game in extra innings.
Either way, the answer should be Herman because he's been the better pitcher. Herman should have been coming out of the bullpen there, and Herman should probably start tonight. But I think we're going to see Tyon for just a few innings unless he's really dealing, and they might go to Herman because I don't know what Wandy's going to give you tonight if he's even available. He kind of has to be, but he's been used every single game, and he's been throwing a lot of pitches. He was talking about starting, so I would start Herman because he's been the most reliable starter for us in the second half outside of Nestor Cortez. In fact, he's been the most reliable starter since that first start in Houston, which was awful. He's been our best guy. So he's been showing the ability to go at least 5-6 innings. If we can get that from Herman tonight and stay in the ball game, we're going to have a really good chance to win. I would rather go Herman, but I'm hoping Tyon can give us at least 3 or 4, just keep us close, and maybe we can scrape some runs against Civali, however you say his name, for Cleveland.
This could be a bullpen game, and that's what kind of scares me. Because we're going to ask Aaron Boone to manage his bullpen very, very well in Game 5, and this is not his strength. This isn't intended to be an episode of ripping Aaron Boone, even though it's coming across that way. It's just I'm calling facts as facts. He has never been a very good bullpen manager, and we're asking him to manage a situation pretty much perfectly because it's all about tonight. So I like Tyon though. I really think that Tyon had a good year, but we don't want him to face the order the third time round. I think that's when he starts leaving pitches up a little bit. But he's got a good mentality. I like Tyon's mentality. He's a guy that doesn't get phased, and he's come up big several times this year. His numbers have been fine. I mean, he is just the definition of a very solid starter, solid mid-rotation starter. Is that somebody you want in a deciding game of the playoffs? No, but this is what we have to deal with. I do think that they have to be pretty much quick on the trigger, though, and have Herman ready. What we got here from Elliot. I think another key that we don't control is for the Yankees to score early. I felt that was important yesterday's game. First chance, maybe your chance against best chance against Bieber. Yeah, Bieber and Tyon is not great. Not good bedfellows.
Not a balanced matchup at all.
The first thing, maybe our best chance against Bieber. So the key is always to score early because we don't want to be facing their bullpen, chasing the game or in a tie game because it's a massive advantage because they've got some alive arms. Which particular arms should we be afraid of, Rob, and from Cleveland's bullpen?
Well, I'll say one real quick, and then I'll let Bobby Tats go because it's a manual class A. They're gonna let him go like 3 innings tonight, I think.
Yeah.
101 mile an hour cutter. It's disgusting. Tats, what are you thinking about the matchup tonight?
Well, the matchup tonight, the more I was thinking about, my first reaction with Tyon was not a good one. I was like, all right, I wasn't too happy about it. I was hoping they were going to announce Nesta, but that's not going to happen. I do rather though Tyon pitch over Herman actually. Because I think Herman has not pitched in a while. You can't afford to give him an inning or 2 to get the rust off. So I think in that aspect, you have him, just kind of wait it out until the next round, and get Herman back up and ready to go. I think in a Game 5, you can't just pull somebody, dust somebody off and go, all right, here, be perfect. I think that's a tall order to ask for, especially, he's not that dominant a pitcher or that experienced or veteran of a pitcher that you could do that with. So I think going with Tyon tonight is the move to go.
So it looks like the matchup is going to be Jameson Tyon versus Aaron Civali. Aaron Civali has got a 4.92 ERA. 98 strikeouts and 97 innings is pretty good. Only 22 walks, so he doesn't really walk batters. Well, that's a pretty high ERA. So,
But doesn't it, if I could interrupt you real quick with the matchups, doesn't it seem like they're pulling like a chess match between Boone and Francona, holding back on Cortez and Bieber just in case they need them for the because one team's going to need an ace to start the series against Houston.
Well, there's no shot Nestor would start tonight because he just pitched like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I think he's pitching on what, 3 days rest?
Yeah,
Maybe 2 days rest.
2 days rest. Okay, so this is his third day. Do you think he'd be available out of the pen? No,
I highly doubt it. I think if anyone's available out of the pen, it'd be Severino just pitched as well. So I don't think any of our starters. I think it's got to be Tyone, Herman. Then they're gonna maybe let Loaizaga go a couple because he hasn't pitched in a couple of days. Maybe you let Trevino go. I don't know if they trust Schmidt, even though that wasn't a bad pitch that won the game for Cleveland the other day.
It was fine. It was just an impossible situation. Runners on the corners. He doesn't have the kind of power stuff, which is gonna, maybe force a strikeout there. I guess they were hoping for a double play. I've got the matchup here. So Tyon against the Guardians. In 5 innings, give us 7 hits, but just the 1 run, 5 Ks. Savali against the Yankees, 2 starts, 9 innings, 12 hits, 10 runs. So he's going to have a very short leash. There's no way that Francona is gonna ride Savali. So Elliott is spot on. We need to score early. We need to put runs on the board, but we don't want to be. What I'm afraid of is the Yankees are going to be like, we have to score off Savali, and then they start forcing the issue. And then they maybe start swinging at pitches that they don't need to be swinging at to try and hit home runs quick in order to get a lead before Savali's taken out, and then they start going with Class A and their elite bullpen. That's what kind of worries me. The Yankees still need to have very smart at bats, but the key is to score early, have a lead, and that would make their bullpen less of a threat as if we've got a lead. If we're behind, that's a worry. What happened to Litge? We haven't seen him at all.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
You're not going to, I don't think. He was good.
If you haven't seen them in the bullpen, come out of the bullpen yet, I don't think you're going to see that. But yeah, I think with the numbers with Savali, that goes to what I was saying, where they need to have patient at bats. You don't need to be aggressive at the plate and try to, go back to back on home runs to get him out of the game. Get him, but like that death of 1,000 paper cuts. Keep the traffic on the bases. Force them to make their plays.
That's how Cleveland have beaten us to this point. Sorry, Rob.
Exactly. Flip the switch on them.
I think Carpenter has to start tonight. They should put Carpenter in left and have Cabrera at short, and then you can replace Carpenter late in the game for defense if you need to, which would probably be Locastro. But Carpenter's bat needs at least 2 at-bats tonight.
I agree on Carpenter. We need, you got to get him, involved at some point.
Well, that's what's weird about this roster that was chosen. It's very inflexible. And so, who would you have blamed? Because let's maybe focus a little bit more on the last game. It was a very interesting game. Now we've only got about a minute left before we log out on Northeast Streaming Sports, but we can carry on. Interesting. Who do you think was to blame with the whole Josh Donaldson, Aaron Hicks run that scored? Donaldson looked like he called off Hicks and did a dramatic dive, but Aaron Hicks was very laissez-faire, very, very lazy in getting to that fly ball. It should have been Aaron Hicks' ball. What do you guys think?
I think that was a very strange play. And watching the replay a couple of times, what it appeared to me was Hicks recognized that Donaldson was running hard to the outfield to get on the grass. Hicks was staying back a little bit to make sure that they didn't collide or the ball never got past Hicks. So when you look at it through that angle, it's one of those, it sucks, but that's what that's just the way the play broke down.
The same thing that happened in game 2, like Donaldson was charging and he cut off Cabrera and then the ball dropped in. till they got those blue pits in the extra innings. It happens all the time with Cleveland. It's all they do is get blue pits, and they score runs off of it. So, I mean, Donaldson's got to stop calling off outfielders. If it's in the outfield, it belongs to the outfielder.
No,
So,
I agree with that.
Right.
Unless you have
It should have been Hicks'
We
ball.
just do want to say goodbye to everybody watching on Roku on Northeast Streaming Sports. Jump over to their Facebook page so we'll continue with the discussion.
right. So I think that Donaldson's got to stop calling off outfielders. Yeah. And if it's in the outfield, unless Donaldson has an absolutely clear shot, then you let him take it. But if it's going to the outfield, you gotta let the outfielder take it.
You do. I just wonder. Hicks was pretty lazy though, getting to that ball, and that's what concerns me. And there was also a bunch of scenarios, like for instance, that scenario where earlier in the series when LaCastro pinched around for Giancarlo Stanton and his spot came up in the order, and the Yankees didn't pinch hit LaCastro, and they just kind of rode LaCastro right there. And that's what I'm saying. It's like the Yankees brought on a bunch of guys that they don't trust to have regular at-bats in this series. LaCastro they don't trust. Aaron Hicks they don't really trust. And they don't want anything to do with Marvin Gonzalez. So why have they got these guys that are holding up key roster spots? It just kind of shows the lack of flexibility. And I just think it was poorly strategized from the front office, but they never accept responsibility. What's Elliott got to say about this? I felt it was his ball. I don't think he was lazy. I think Donaldson called him off and he didn't want to crash into him, but it was his play. Yeah, okay. It certainly was a miscommunication, and it was unfair on Garrett Cole because that pitch that he threw was electric. It was a beautiful cutting, biting curveball there. Did really well to make contact, Ramirez, but it was just incredibly unfortunate that there was a miscommunication. I was very concerned that it was going to blow up on us. But credit to Garrett Cole, he shrugged it off, and that's not something that he's done much this year in terms of shrugging off things that don't go too well for him in an inning. He kind of shrugged it off and he got on with it. But then there was a home run, and I'll tell you what, that was an anxiety-ridden last few innings. So it was one guy who's been a very interesting player to this point, Bader. I think we should talk about Harrison Bader. He has been very, very good in this series, in my opinion. I think he's been the X factor offensively. Tats, what do you think about Bader?
When he first came over, it was, you got rid of you gave up on pitching death for a guy in a boot, right? That's how the whole debate started on the trade. But if this is how he's going to be able to perform in the postseason for us, then yeah, it's got to be considered one of the better trades that he's made in terms of Cashman. And that's a guy that could really propel you into a deep run in the playoffs. So I think Bader has been the X factor for the offense and the defensive alignment. I think that goes unnoticed too. So,
his defense is fantastic.
Yeah,
Rob,
you know that meme with the two astronauts? They're looking at the Earth, and there's a smaller one, and the bigger one's pointing a gun at him, and the smaller one always says something. So the smaller astronaut would say, "The Harrison Bader trade was a good one," and the bigger one would say, "With the gun to his head, always has been," because it was always a good trade. Because Jordan Montgomery was never going to do anything for us in October. Harrison Bader has already done plenty for us in 4 games of the first series he's played for us in the postseason. 3 home runs, the most for a Yankee center fielder and a DS since Bernie Williams. Like, he's doing things that we haven't seen since the dynasty years. He's been outstanding. This was always an October move. No one could have expected the power, but he offers speed. His defense is elite, and he's obviously got a good enough bat to come through when you need it. He was always a good player. It was always a good move. You just needed to be patient. And a lot of Yankees fans still didn't want to accept it until he hit that first home run.
Time for me.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying a lot of fans didn't want to accept it.
I was one of them. So what it was, until he got on the field, it was always going to be a question.
That's why I was saying it just took a little bit of patience.
Yeah.
And once he showed up, he immediately played well. He wasn't lighting up the scoreboard, on his first 10 games or whatever he played with us when he came back, but he came back. And here he is starting every game of a playoff series, and he's had a very big impact in each one of them. So, I mean, the trade was a good one.
Elliot says here, Bader is emerging as a guy whose production you didn't see coming. Well, it depends because his skill set, as Rob points out, was something that we needed anyway. Even regardless of his hitting home runs, we needed elite defense in the outfield. He's provided that. He's provided a spark. He's provided speed. I liked the trade at the time. So I'm with Rob on that. I liked the trade. It was just the timing more than anything. It was obviously the optics of acquiring someone who was in a walking boot. But as you say, a little bit of patience, and this guy is showing you why, because Montgomery had no role here. I don't even think he would have pitched today, quite honestly. So I think it was a smart move, and it's paying off. As I say, I think Bader's been the X factor offensively.
Yeah.
And let's touch on the offense because it's not been great to this point. We're not really generating many hits. Like Cleveland are out hitting us a ton, but we are getting runs when it counts. Who do you think needs to step up, and who do you think's been who you've been happy with so far offensively? We'll start with Rob.
Judge needs to step up. It's his team, and if we need anybody to step up, he had the productive out at least in the first inning last night, and he had the home run in Game 3. But if there's anybody you're looking at lead us to victory tonight, it's Aaron Judge. A guy that so far has impressed me, Bader. Bader's been outstanding, I think, this series. Even without the defensive gaps, IKF was hitting okay, but we know we're probably not going to see him tonight. There really hasn't been anybody that stood out, has had like a really good series. So, I mean, Bader's been the best one, and aside from the home runs, he hasn't really lit it up. Cabrera could be said, but it was only one game that he showed out. So
Rizzo?
Here and there. Rizzo's been here and there. It's kind of been hit or miss with him. Like, literally. It's been hit or miss with him.
Tats.
I actually think Rizzo needs to kind of step up a little bit. Not that he's been terrible. He hasn't cost us anything at the plate, but we do need somebody with a little. We do need that, especially at home. We need that left-handed bat to come, to show up today. We need to take advantage of that short porch, especially if we're going to be able to really out-hit them. It's not so much the power, but we have guys that have that natural power in their swing where even if they're swinging for a ground ball, they can elevate and go out. So I think getting Rizzo as the left-hander on track is very important. The guy that has been impressive is Bader. I think that goes without saying. He's been involved in every bit of success that we've had. He seems to be in the middle of in this ALDS. So I think he's been that guy that's really just been. He's got to stay on fire just one more game.
Oh, he does, but he did get that key RBI single. That was really important where Rizzo provided there to get us on the board. Judge got a key hit, and then Rizzo helped him over. So it was an important run that he scored, and that kind of set us on his way. So I'm not too disappointed with Rizzo, but yeah, a lot of it comes down to Stanton. But Stanton was so close to a home run, man. I thought he crushed that.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate it stayed in the park. Did well, still driving in a key run though. But if you go through our order with DJ LeMahieu out, we're kind of struggling because he was so important. He would have been our leadoff hitter. We don't really have a leadoff hitter, so we're asking Gleyber Torres to be a leadoff hitter, and I don't think he's really a leadoff guy, but he's probably the best of the bunch at the moment. We do need Judge in the 2-hole. Him leading off just made no sense. It's again reinventing the wheel. No other team in the playoffs have their best hitter batting first. Their best power hitter batting first. That just doesn't exist. So,
Well, the Phillies do.
What is Harper batting leadoff?
No, Schwarber. He led the National League in home runs, and he's been leading off.
I would say that Harper's their best player.
We said best power hitter.
Best player / power hitter. I certainly wouldn't have had much I certainly wouldn't have had Aaron Judge batting leadoff. Would you?
I only said it going into the series because it was what they went with for the final 50 games, and they were producing. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because we didn't have a leadoff hitter. Without Benintendi, we don't have a leadoff hitter. Without LeMahieu, we don't have a leadoff hitter. So I advocated for Torres in the past, but this guy has a tendency to swing at the first pitch whenever there's somebody on base. So I don't know what that issue is with him. Becomes very pull happy, and he's always grounding the ball out every single time. There's a guy on base. It's a first pitch swing, and he's getting out. But we still don't have a leadoff hitter. They can't go Cabrera there because he's not a leadoff hitter. We don't know what he is yet because he's still very raw in the majors. I would say Peraza would be our most logical, but he's not on the goddamn roster. So we don't have one. But for right now, I guess you roll with what's been the last few days, which is Judge staying in the 2-hole, and I guess you lead off Glaber again. But they have to pray if they advance tonight that Benintendi's healthy for the LCS.
Yeah, I think he probably should have even made the roster anyway, even if he was just going to be a defensive replacement / pinch runner. Hype Beast J. Carpenter needs to see some at-bats. I agree. To be honest, that one pitch hit that he had, I thought his at-bat was quality. He got good pitches to hit, and he was putting good bat on the ball. He was just missing them because he's not been playing much. But the only way that he can get to start is Giancarlo Stanton playing left field. Would you guys put Stanton out in left field and Carpenter DH?
No. As much as I like having Stanton in the outfield, because he can play the outfield, I think it's been too – at this stage, I wouldn't make too many drastic changes like that. I think I would actually roll out exactly what the way you lined it up, they put it out yesterday. I would do that today. As much as Torres is not your typical, your textbook leadoff hitter, I just think, to get some, maybe the only other guy would be Bader, but, as a leadoff guy, because he's got the speed too. But I wouldn't really change too much. Because it's been a while. It's been too long since Stanton's played the outfield. I wouldn't put him out there.
I think he'd do just fine because you can't get much worse than Aaron Hicks, and you can still put Carpenter out there and left. I wanted Carpenter to start game 2, and then he could have rolled with Cabrera in game 3. I just need Carpenter to get at bats because he's still, outside of Aaron Judge and Giancarlo, he's still our biggest power threat. So you need to get him at bats, especially if he's able to get at least one against Savali, and then if you can get him 2 or 3 at bats and then take him out, I think he'll do just fine. Or they can let Stanton start. Boone already said if we go to the ALCS, he's going to let Stanton play the outfield. Why not just let him play tonight? I don't know what playing tonight is going to be different than playing Tuesday or whatever game 1 would be.
At this stage, it's all hands on deck. We're okay with Judge leading off. He's a 300 hitter. Can either start the game with a home run or a single that can turn into a run. But as A-Rod pointed out, he's getting no protection. And they can just basically give him the filthiest stuff. And he's not that much of a threat if the only outcome for him would be him hitting a solo home run, because you're not expecting the number 9 hitter to get on base that much. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we were talking about from the start. And I don't even think it helped Aaron Judge all that much. I mean, the only reason why he came in to be a leadoff hitter is so that they don't pinch around him that much and that they give him more at-bats to hit that home run. But the chase is over now. It's about putting together your best constituted lineup. And Aaron Judge leading off is not the best constitution in our lineup. It really isn't. You can always move the DH to the field and pinch hit the pitcher spot the rest of the game. That would be too much. Amen, Hype Beast J. Amen. I've actually got some of the numbers here for the postseason. OPS, Harrison Bader, 1,200 OPS. He leads the team. Number 2, Anthony Rizzo, 980. I liked Anthony Rizzo. I think Anthony Rizzo's had a very good playoffs. Bader leads the batting average, 286. Same with Anthony Rizzo, 286. The worst, it's really Aaron Judge that really needs to step up. He's only got a 480 OPS, 125 batting average. Stanton worse. Glaber Torres worse than all of them. So what we really need is those three guys. Gleyber Torres, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton really need to step up. I'm not expecting anything from Josh Donaldson. I never have. He's not had a very good series to date other than playing third base. He's not had a good year offensively. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm concerned about the lineup. I just don't think that there's enough strength to this lineup to get us through an Astros series. But I think it should be enough to get through the Cleveland series. But a bunch of guys need to step up, and a lot of it starts with Gleyber Torres. If Gleyber Torres is hitting the ball the other way, that's a great sign. Then you need Aaron Judge to be Aaron Judge. And Stanton, we desperately need to be playoff Stanton. What do you guys think?
That's why I want Carpenter. Home runs win in the playoffs. And I know Cleveland's been very, very scrappy and all that, and they've gotten a lot of their big runs with bloop singles, and, you know, they get the bloop and sometimes the blast, but home runs still win the game majority of the time in October. Look at the statistics the last, 10 years, or look at it this year. Home runs are winning playoff games. The Astros and Mariners just went 18 goddamn innings, and the game was won on a home run. Home runs win you ball games still. The Yankees have that advantage over Cleveland. We're in a home run hitting ballpark. Get Carpenter in the lineup. He is going to do something good. I have a feeling he's going to come up tonight. It's just it's written in the stars. It's like a big magic moment, and that could be something that propels us to a little momentum against Houston. I don't know if we'll beat them, but with Carpenter, we have a better chance of beating the Astros than with him sitting on the bench.
I agree, and I mean, it's a debate of what should it be, Aaron Hicks or Matt Carpenter. I think it's going to be Aaron Hicks, but I would go Carpenter because this is a matchup where we could actually do damage with. We've got a very good record against the pitcher that they're bringing out there in today's game. So I would have Carpenter out there. But how would we do it? I think Stanton needs to just suck it up and play left field, and it would really help us. It really would help the constitution of this lineup if you play left field. I don't think it's going to break him playing a couple of innings, 7 innings or something. Then you could put him in as a defensive replacement, put Aaron Hicks or whatever. But we need to do the damage early. And I think you need to lengthen this lineup, give Carpenter a shot. And I just don't see the point in having him on the roster if you're just going to not use him. He's here for a reason, you know?
They could have used that roster spot. If they didn't want to use him, giving it to Peraza.
Yep.
Simple as that. Look at Marvin Gonzalez. He's sitting there. They haven't used him. They've used everybody on the bench except for him, yet he's still got a roster spot over Peraza. So none of it makes sense. The roster construction for this series did not make any sense.
It didn't. And it's cost us to this point. It really has. Very concerning. So when it all comes down to tonight, it's going to be very exciting. So far, just before we close off the show, let's maybe touch on the rest of the series. It's been the playoffs of the underdog.
Yep.
All the wildcard teams seem to be balling out. The Braves are out. That was a shock. The Dodgers are out. The Phillies are fantastic, and the Padres are fantastic. And to be honest, Cleveland have surprised a lot of people. They're giving us a hell of a time. Who's really shocked you so far?
The Phillies. The way that they were able to overmatch the Braves, who were so friggin' hot, the whole second half of the year, the Braves just seemed to be untouchable. It's like they had the second half like we had our first half. You know, you just couldn't beat them, and if you did, you felt lucky. Mm-hmm. So I think that the Phillies advancing I think that was more of a shock than even the Padres overmatching the Dodgers. The Phillies match getting through, it was completely. I never saw that coming.
Rob,
the Phillies. I don't like giving Philadelphia any sort of credit because I don't like the Eagles, but man, am I ecstatic for them because they fired that overrated, overhyped. Binder holding Joe Girardi in the middle of their season, and they went to the playoffs and they knocked off the defending champions.
What do you think about their manager?
He's better than Joe Girardi. So you know what? Everyone that was yelling the last few years that we should have had Girardi still. We could have used Girardi. We need that. No, you don't, because the Phillies just proved that he is as overrated as you could possibly be as a manager. He failed with us numerous times with a very, very good roster, and he failed with a very good roster over there in Philadelphia. This guy had a all-star team his last 15 years of managing, whatever it's been. And he hasn't won anything but one championship with the best roster he's ever had. So you know what? I am so happy that the Phillies proved me right that Girardi is overhyped. And I'm very happy for them because I do like Bryce Harper. I like Real Muto. I like Wheeler. I like a lot of the guys on that team. They're a good team.
They have a good offense. They really do. I don't think it's this David and Goliath thing. If you look at their lineup, it's good. Their batting lineup is very good. I'm particularly happy for Rob Thompson. He was somebody that I really wanted to be considered as the Yankee manager. I think he'd be a really good Yankee manager because I was listening to Michael Kay and he was talking about how Rob Thompson always held the players to a standard of the Yankees. He expected them to behave as Yankees. He was very much in tune with the history of the organization and the standards that are expected to wear the pinstripes. And that's the type of manager I wanted for this team because it looks like he's come in and he's just been better. And this Phillies team have really taken off under his leadership. It also flies in the face of this argument that you can't sack a manager midseason because they were not doing terribly, the Phillies. They were just kind of average. They were just kind of mid. They were just a little bit slightly below to mid. They weren't going to make the playoffs, but they made a change, and then boom, they're a fantastic team. Sometimes you can make that freaking change, and I'll tell you what, I think Rob Thompson's a very, very, very underrated manager. I think he got pigeonholed by the Yankees as just an assistant or a bench coach. Yeah. I think he's a lot better than that, and he's shown that for Philadelphia. I would have liked him to be Yankee manager, quite honestly, and I think a lot of the problems that we're having with, for instance, Severino calling out Aaron Boone postseason and a lot of the issues, whether our players totally respecting Aaron Boone, are they running through a wall for Aaron Boone? I don't think they are. I think they respect him as a person. I just don't think they respect him as a leader of men. I don't think that would be an issue with Rob Thompson. So I like Joe Girardi. I think he got done over by the organization in 2017. That was his best managerial season. But it's clear that Rob Thompson now managed them this year. So full credit to him. And I like this Phillies team. You never know. This is what's great about the postseason. Dodgers are upset because they had a record-breaking year, and they're out at the first hurdle. But what do you guys think about the playoff format? Because it looks like it's helping teams that are in a rhythm, that aren't getting like a bye. Do you subscribe to that theory or not?
The Astros swept the Mariners. The Astros are still the best team in baseball to me.
That's true. Good point.
So it didn't hurt the Astros. The Padres are a great team. So I don't know why everyone's making it like, the Dodgers had way too much rest. The Padres are really good. They got really good pitching. They got the best. They got the best player on the trade market in this deadline, and they got Juan Soto. They got Drury. They picked up Hader, who was terrible, but he's picked it up in the postseason for them. They already had a great rotation. They already had a good offense without Juan Soto, and now they're even better. Why are people surprised the Padres were able to pull off it was an upset, sure, but the Dodgers were a great team, but it wasn't like the Padres were this 85-win wild card group. I mean, I think they were, but they were still a good team.
Very good team.
A very good team. So it's not surprising that they came through. They got through a good.
They got a great manager too from Oakland.
Yeah. They got through a good Mets team to get to the Dodgers, and they rode the momentum. Now, would it be different if the playoffs started earlier and the Dodgers were right there instead of getting the bye? Who knows? But I just don't think this playoff format's a bad thing. I don't like the idea of a wild card series. I think if we had 2 wild card games that went into the AL and NLDS, that might be a little bit more interesting. I still love the 1-game playoff concept. I think it just adds a lot more. I do. And I think having an extra one would be a little more exciting if you're watching like 4 different wild card games, because it all comes down to you got to be perfect managing. And I think the 1-game playoff was fun. I don't think a 3-game series is just weird to me. It's like, okay, win 2 and it's over. I don't really like it. I'd rather, if you're going to have a wild card set, have it be one game. Do or die.
Okay, that's your opinion on that. Would you like the 3-game or do you like the
Yeah,
1 game?
I did like the 1 game because it highlighted, it really put a lot of emphasis on winning your division. I think that part of it I really agreed with. But I do like the way that the format is now at the same time. I think they both do very well for baseball. Because baseball, it's not a 1 game. It's not like football where you just play 1 game.
Exactly.
Baseball is always played in a series. And why is this spam keep popping up on our feed? So
come on, Tad. It's time to find your love. Hold on, I'll get rid of them.
So
I've blocked it. Don't worry.
So it's
It might have been directed towards.
Oh, don't get flustered, Tad. Come on, you're doing so well. Keep going.
No, the baseball is always played in a series. So I think having that going into the postseason, I think it just brings, for the players' point of view, it just brings a little familiarity to it.
I agree. It's not like football. I don't think it's a one and done thing, but I quite like the 3-game series. I don't have an issue with it. I actually quite like this format. And hey, we can't really complain. All the games have been very, very good. And to this point, there's been no boring games. That's for sure. It's all been very, very interesting. And I agree with Rob in terms of I think people are underestimating the Padres. They went all for it in the deadline. They brought in Juan Soto, for Christ's sake. The Yankees didn't. They went all in. They were like, we need to get this guy in. And he was kind of middling, but I think he seemed getting better as the months have gone on. He's getting more comfortable in a Padre uniform. This Padre team is legit, so I don't think that it wasn't that much of a underdog situation, although the Dodgers were very, very good. The Phillies, I looked at that order and I was like, yeah, why are people like sleeping on the Phillies? Like, it's got a good team. I don't think they got a great pitching staff necessarily, but Syndergaard's done a good job. I think a lot of it is about their offense. Good offense. Real Muto in the middle of the order and Harper, that's legit. I don't care who you're playing. So, these are good teams in the playoffs. So, I think it's been a very good year for baseball, very good playoffs for baseball. I think things are starting to look pretty good for the sport. And it certainly helped that Aaron Judge had one of the greatest seasons of all time, a historic season, to really emphasize that the sport is seeming to come back into the conversation of the national sports again, which is really, really good, as we all love the sport so much. So we're in the last minute or two of our podcast, and let's get back briefly. Score prediction, Game 5. What's it going to be?
3-1 Yankees.
3-1. Okay, I would.
Wow.
I think we get a little bit more than that. I think we'll get 5. I think we're going to win this one 5-4, and we're going to be biting our nails and shaking. We're going to be hyperventilating in that 9th inning, but we're going to win 5-4.
I'm going to go 6-4 Yankees. I definitely think it's going to be very close. I think there'll be a few runs here and there, but it's going to be very, very close, and it's all going to come down to the 9th inning. And once again, it'll be nail-biting because that's what the Yankees have done all year long. The Yankees don't do blowouts. They certainly don't handle just dominating teams that much these days. It's all going to be very much down to the wire. But we will break it down for you, whatever happens. But anybody who's watching, when you're going to the game, be loud as you possibly can, especially for that spoon who did that embarrassing celebration around Garrett Cole. We need to make him look like the idiot that he is, because that was completely disgraceful and disrespectful. So we really need to shove it in his face by being loud, being intimidating, be New Yorkers. We will bring it through, bring it home, and let's go and take on the Astros. This is it. Thank you so much for everyone watching. Thank you so much for Northeast Streaming Sports. You can please like and subscribe. Click on the notification tab for whenever we do a stream. 9:30 every day, 5 days a week. We got Tats. We got Rob. This is Donald. Once again, thank you so much. Go Yankees. Wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.